question always comes up, why? When you have the conventional economics, everything is running, okay, we have ups and downs, but why do we have to create something new? And it is not something radicalism. Talking about Islamic moral economy is not a radical position. It is a very normal process, because by very nature, knowledge has to be democratic as well, and has to be able to provide opportunity spaces for other ideas to flourish. And the same thing, I mean, if you look at the founders of political economy throughout the centuries, from Adam Smith to John Stuart Mill, in their writings we would see that they are making references the value base of thinking in economics and the political economy. And that value, they said, results in a particular system. So it implies that, by stating that, it implies that by very nature, if you have different values, it is very normal to develop different systems, and there is nothing wrong with that. So different visions, as a result, develops different moral economies or political economies, or economies, what we call it. Because at the end of the day, economics is not a natural science, but it is value loaded. It is through the values we express, because now it is generally recognized. Even the conventional economics, when we teach, it is generally recognized through institutional economics, cultural economics, and etc. The values plays an important role in people's choices related to economy and finance related issues. Therefore, when we look at Islamic moral economy, why it is different, as a result of this wisdom, that is, the foundations are different, operational principles are different, like the way we construct or structure instruments in Islamic finance. Theories differ, and worldview is different, and there are certain understanding. Therefore, one way or another, Islamic moral economy is an alternative way of looking at social reality related to economic and finance. So it is like any other system of economics. It prescribes, it tells us how to do, through the normative understanding, how to conduct our economies and businesses and finances, and provides that moral values. And therefore, it is an approach, it's a process of interpreting and solving the economic problems of human beings. It is a wisdom, general wisdom, open to be benefited by everyone who opts in. And therefore, it is a process of interpreting and solving the economic problems of human beings based on values, norms, laws, and institutions found and developed from the sources of Islam. And therefore, and it is important at this stage to state, that Islamic finance is the institutional aspect of this moral economy. So it is part of that larger system. As the finance the economic activity in an Islamic framework, there is a need to develop certain instruments that abide with the rules and the normative axioms of Islamic understanding. But over the years, of course, the conceptual definitions, there was some attempt, in particular, as mentioned, 70s, 80s, even some in 90s, to develop the moral economy nature, so that Islamic finance or other aspect of this moral economy can be properly engineered. And based on that wisdom, okay, just looking into the foundational principles, the philosophical foundations of this moral economy, which can remind us again the moral dimension of Islamic finance, and hence probably necessity to redirect Islamic finance. Of course, at the base of that is Tawheed, the uniqueness of God or Allah, and that is important because it's the vertical dimension of this ethical system. In other words, individuals being equal in their relationship in terms of the distance between themselves and God, in their relationship between themselves in relation to God. And hence the equality, the basis of equality starts from here. Then it moves into, of course, to the horizontal justice, adala, an important part of it, and ihsan, achieving ihsan or the beneficence. So justice and beneficence in terms of socioeconomic justice, important aspect. In other words, individuals being equal. So in Tawheed, individuals being equal in the sight of God, but with Adala and Ihsan, individuals being equal to each other. Hence, this horizontal dimension of justice is an important aspect, and hence has certain requirements. As you can see, justice, whether it is horizontal, whether it's vertical, is an essential part of this moral economy, and hence why Islamic finance should be able to respond to the justice issues as it benefits, it emanates from these principles, this philosophical foundation. And then, of course, responsibility. And this responsibility is very much related to what individuals are expected to do. Of course, certain issues are voluntary, but certain others are compulsory issues for individuals to respond. So there's a social aspect of every asset owned or managed by private or public entities as a responsibility, like zakah, or the almsgiving being an important part of this system. But importantly, going through all this environmental crisis, in addition to financial crisis, two important concepts here. One is the rububiyah, or the divine arrangements for nourishment, sustenance, and directing things towards their perfection, and hence responding to environmental problem. In other words, it is in terms of developing the resources and responding to mutual support and sharing of the resources and divine arrangements that human efforts takes place. Everything has to be to the perfection. So the environment has to be respected because there's a perfection. And that perfection has to be respected, not to be undermined. Again, tazkiyah, purification plus growth. So growth is something accepted and encouraged in Islam. It has two aspects, of course, the material growth as well as the spiritual growth. And that again responds, but that growth again, together with rububiyah and tazkiyah, it's the harmony with individuals, harmony with a state, harmony with environment, with the natural environment, and etc. That harmony is an important aspect. Of course, then maqasid al-sharia is another axiom through which it has been possible to regenerate certain ideas to respond to the modern needs in terms of economics and financing by defining maqasid al-sharia, or the objective of sharia, as the human well-being. So all the activities, one way or another, has to be made towards human well-being as an essential bit. And hence, Islamic finance, of course, therefore has to be able to respond to that for human well-being. And these are the issues that we need to be concerned. And these foundational axioms, the one way or another, establishes the nature of the moral economy that the founding fathers attempted to create. But of course, there are, as I mentioned, theoretical problems in terms of internal consistency, but at least we have a base, and that base is important for us to develop.